Well, I'm sure that introduction was nice, all that noise. I'm not sure how that worked out, but anyway, what I want to do is just sort of an informal thing out here in the shop today. What I'm trying to do is make a fixture here, which will become self-explanatory here in a minute, but I'll walk you through it, show you what I've been working on here today, or really the last couple of weeks. So what I've done is I cut 4 grooves in this oak, and started out with a 1/4 inch straight bit with one of these. It's just a straight bit. So once you get the groove cut initially, and then you back it up with this router bit that has a dovetail on it. So the bit that I just ran through there was a match fit bit, and what that does is it allows you to put a dovetail in so you can put a clamp in. So it makes a board to where if you have parts, it doesn't matter what you want to do, it's just you got to use your creativity here a little bit. But this will allow you to clamp stuff to a board. And you can run these grooves either way, cross grain or with the grain. So it's just a way of making jigs and fixtures. A little disclaimer, match fit and all the stuff that I use, I don't really endorse it or sell it or promote it. I buy it, and if it works for me at the time, I use it. So I'm not making any money off the products that you're looking at. Raise that up. I'm going to try to put another bit in here, and that'll allow me to run an edge around that board. try not to hit the carbide bit. The router's unplugged, by the way, switched off. So these collets have like a, I don't know, they loosen for a while and then you gotta keep loosening them for them to come completely loose. I don't know what the deal is, but they've always been like that. So this little match fit dovetail bit, 29 bucks back a while back. The dovetail is a 14-degree bit. So I'm going to put this collet away and put a 1/4-inch collet in here. So believe it or not, this is all model airplane related here. I'll show you here in a little bit exactly how it's all going to work out. And this router bit is just basically a decorative edge. I think I'm getting sawdust down in there, sort of getting grinded. Okay, so what I want to do is figure out how deep I want this bit to run. Let's try that. Yeah, all I'm doing is here is just breaking the edge a little bit, making it look fancy. So with this bit, I really don't need the fence. This bit has a ball bearing guide to it. So when you run the board around it, it rides on that bearing. Now, one of the things you got to be careful of on these bits, you get tear out when you go around corners. The other thing to remember, when the router is reversed in the table, you go from right to left. When you hold the router upright, it's left to right for the feed of the bit, the way it spins. So this little edge, it wasn't necessary. It's like most edges, it's just decorative. Just wanted to experiment with a bit. So you're probably wondering, after looking at this thing, okay, what's the end game of this block? And I'll show you here in a minute. I'm going to run the router around the other one, and I'll move the camera and I'll show you. So that's that one. Let's do this one real quick. Alright, so these are my blocks with the grooves in it. And here's sort of a rundown of some of the stuff I've come up with. Move this down here. So what this is, it's like a shooting board or a sled, a sanding sled. It's a combination of a whole bunch of stuff, really. Obviously, this whole board's set up with a groove in it. And these are 45s and 90, 45 and 90. So this board, it's 2 pieces of Baltic birch, 3/4 inch. This is the base and this is the top. I made the top plate where I could remove it in case I wanted to change it out or do something with it. And then over here, the base comes out, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches. And then the top plate sits on top. And in effect, what it does is it becomes a sled with a sanding bar or a saw. So one of the ways you can use this, you can take this triangle, you screw it to your shooting board. I'll just call it shooting board from now on. So this allows you to put a stop in there where you can pivot it around. So it's sort of like infinitely adjustable as far as how many degrees. So back in the day at Foremost, they had a small one. Let me get it out. I think I have it in the cabinet over here. And it was a smaller version of this, but I really didn't. It was great for peanut scale. When you built something bigger, it really wasn't enough. So I bought this at Toledo. This was probably 15, 20 years ago. Foremost products. They also made the little razor plane, which I love for modeling. I've got that laying around here somewhere. But anyway, this is your 90 degree, and then you can adjust this. The trouble with this was it was so small and the block was so messy. It was hard to get a good sand joint. Although it worked really well, I liked it. And so I came up with this, and this is overkill for modeling. But the reason I made it so big, doing a lot of the stuff for carpentry work, the small little trim pieces that you miter for cabinet trim. When you put them on a big compound miter saw, the problem is they end up getting away from you. So this little sanding sled will do modeling stuff or carpentry work. It'll fill that void. So if you want to, you can just use it as a sanding sled. These strips out here are UHMW. So what I've done, since you don't want the sanding block running against the UHMW, you leave the sandpaper off here in the back. And I've taken a little piece of plywood here to cover the sandpaper. So let's say that you want to sand an angle on here. You let it overhang. And then you can sand the perfect angle. Or if you have, let's just say this was poplar or something heavier, like on the construction site, we need smaller pieces of hardwood cut. So what I'll do here, I'll utilize my clamp in my dovetail. And what this is, it's a 90-degree block with a magnet on it. So I'll position the block wherever I want it, and I'll clamp it down. And then from there, I'll take a Zona saw, if I can find it here. A Zona saw or a Japanese pole saw. These are really good. There's other brands too, but so what you do, in effect, you use the magnet to hold the saw, and then you extend your stock out wherever you want it, and then you just gradually pull the saw across your stock. So that gives you an angle cut. Now you can use this block for 90 in itself. You can take the stock and you can put the stock up like this, and you can just use that as a 90 like that. So that's that. Now, if you don't want to use this block with the knob on it, the other idea is the grooves here. You can come down here and you can position these any way you want. I mean, it's like infinitely adjustable. So let's just say that you have some stock here. You can put it in there, and let's just say that, you know, that's the angle you want. Come over here with your clamps. And then it's always good to have two clamps. or more. So you can run another clamp back here like that. So as you're, you can capture it where you don't have to hold it. It's already captured in there. And then you could just feed it through a little at a time. And then sand it that way. Now, so this does all the angles. The other thing I came up with the other day is a little angle transfer thing there. And basically what this is control horn tabs I just screwed together with 440s. And I got a couple round magnets in there. And this little piece of plywood. So this thing is sort of like a hinge, but it's stiff enough to where it doesn't move on its own. And then out here, there's two little square magnets stuck to the horns. And these things have a UHMW tape on it. And it's the same tape I use on the shooting board sled here. So the idea of this little angle finder is you can set it on your plans. And then what I do, I take preferably a dull blade, and I stick it on the magnet here. And then I can just take this jig and I can bend it back and forth till it matches the plan, till you get perfect match like that. Once you establish the angle, it doesn't matter what the angle is, it's just you're going to use that as a duplicator. So then you can take the little angle finder and you can come over here and you can set this thing up to what matches your cutting board sled. Now all this, I know it's overkill, but this sled is made for a construction site too, for like cabinetry and the fine little parts of cabinets and so forth. So here it's set the angle, and you can come in from either the top of it or the bottom of it here, and then you need to stand your angle. So that's pretty much in a gist. So I'm not saying it has to be exactly like this. Obviously it does. You got to build the fixture to suit your needs. This one was built to suit my needs. And we'll see. We'll put it into practice here in the next couple of years. And I might change it. Or the beauty of this also, if something doesn't work out, or I mean, you can take the plate off and it's like a big tinker toy thing here. You could just redo it and change it. And so it's really not set in stone that it has to be like this. You could change it. So let's put this thing back together a little bit, and I'll go back and I'll cover exactly what I was doing with the other blocks when I started the video. And I'll show you why I was making those blocks with the dovetail in them. And it's sort of an extension of this whole idea. You can make a lot of router and table saw fixtures with this dovetail system. There. Another thing is, I'll cover real quick on these blocks with magnets. So what I've been doing, if you just want a quick 90-degree cut, you're working at a bench, and let's say you have some kind of spruce and you want a perfect cut, I've been utilizing these little blocks or cut-offs from a machine shop. This is, let's see, what is this? This is an inch by inch and a quarter. And if you go to a machine shop or a scrap yard, you can pick these blocks up really cheap. It's just cold rolled steel, and then I put a magnet on it. So then you can actually use that as a miter box. The blade sticks, and it allows you to get a nice 90. If you had the way of doing it, cut this block at a 45 and then put it against the belt sander to true it up or make it right. So that way you'd have a 45 and a 90. And just with these rare earth magnets, it turns it into a miter box. All right, I'll get the camera. I'll bring it over here. So what I'm going to try to show you here is how this is set up to build a stab. Now, one of the things I guess I didn't find it that enjoyable, but it was building stick stabs. So basically it's a structure like that. This is a little RC fun fly plane, or structure like that. These are all laser cut parts except for the diagonal ribs. But it was sort of therapeutic putting the things together. But the problem was, it was sort of tedious. And I thought, well, I wonder if there's a faster way of doing it. So what I did is I cut these blocks, and these blocks are going to replace this block. So in a gist, I'll go through here really quick and show you the thinking of this whole thing. And it's sort of complicated to begin with, setting it up. But once you get it set up and you get it all working, it's really useful. So tinkering around out here, one of the things I found useful with these metal rods, this is cold rolled steel, a 1/2 inch square, by the way. I was out here tinkering around, and I thought, you know, when I was covering an airplane or I was masking one off for painting, it was always one of these deals where it always seemed like it was a pain cutting the paper. So what I did is I came out here. Here's you can get this at Sherwin-Williams. So I came out here with some paper, stuck it in between these metal rods, and I CA'd a blade to a metal block. This is just a regular utility knife blade. And here again, I shimmed the blade, the back of it, with UHMW so it's all flat. So this rides against the metal rod. You pull up the amount of paper you need, and then you just slice it off. So if you're painting, and let's just say that you need just like a triangular piece to mask off, take this blade, you know, you make any shape you want. Or if if you set this thing up and you're wrapping a bunch of Christmas presents, I mean, I guess it would be useful. The one thing you don't want to do is drop that on your toe. So handle that with care. Okay, back to this crazy looking thing here. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, so I'm out here building these things. I'm thinking, you know, it's a really neat concept. It's all laser cut, but you know, it would be nice to be able to cut everything and then have it in a jig and then fix it perfectly and glue it at the same time. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing here on building one. I think I'll do that on another video. So basically what's going to happen is you're going to take these metal rods and you're going to move them back and forth until you get the outline you want minus a 1/4 inch. And the reason why I say that is because this structure has to hang over the edge here, an 1/8 inch on each side of these rods. So what I'll do is I'll take these little knobs. Okay, I'll slide these in this groove and I'll tighten them down. So I'm going to position these 2 metal rods right where I need them. Now the 2 blocks I made, there's another block and smaller rods that will accompany it. So this will work out if you have a parallel leading and trailing edge. But let's say you want to build a stab and you wanted a swept leading edge. So what I've done is I've cut the big blocks you just saw me cut, and I've got this. And that's where I'll incorporate these short ones. Let's just say that this is the same height, which it isn't, but this short one will come here for the leading edge and come here. So all you do is you adjust this back and forth and move it around until that's your plan form minus a 1/4 inch. So in effect what you do then, once you get it all laid out, let's just say you want this angle here, you can take a protractor or whatever you want to do, and you can draw your plans right on the metal rod. So you're going to come out here and say you want 30 degrees, which is 70 here. It's a complementary angle. So you come out here and you'll mark where you want. And these are locked down, of course. So once you get your geodetic, your everything locked out, marked out I mean, then you go with these little rubber bands. Now you find these in the drugstore for hairnet, or women use them for their hair. So what you'll do, you'll take your ribs, and this could be any size, this is scrap so we'll use this since it's laying there. So you're going to wrap this rubber band around this stick, which will be your rib, and you're going to come over here underneath. You're going to hook that rubber band. I'm not really positioned too well to do this. So once you get it hooked, you're going to wrap the rubber band around the top. So what I've done is put 2 rubber bands, one on each end. So let's just say this is a little bit shorter. So then you come up and wrap this. Now what I've done to stabilize this a little bit more, and this is the reason why you have to have a metal rod. So you adjust this thing to the marks you just made. Of course you see it's all moving around just for the demo here. It's not the way it's going to be. It'll be tightened down at the ends once the thing is actually made. So I like to come through here at these little magnets and you can get different sizes of them. And these little magnets will sort of stabilize the rubber bands a little bit. And once you get some magnets on each side of that little stick, it really becomes stable. You know, that's pretty stable there. So rubber bands are holding it down. The magnets are holding it from side to side. So now that you've got it all laid out, you got all your sticks, you know, positioned with rubber bands and magnets. Now you take a magnet with UHMW. This is a little mock-up scrap. I'll probably use one of these. So you take one of these magnets, or two of them. These are maybe 3/32. Whatever the thickness of the magnets are, you have to compensate for the stab outline. So now these magnets, you just slide them back and forth to cut all your ribs. So you'll take your Zona saw or whatever and put it on your magnet. So basically, you go around the perimeter and you cut all your ribs exactly where they need to be. And then you can go with a sanding block if you want to go through there a little bit, tune them up a little bit. So what you got now, just pretend this is another rubber band here. We'll do another quick cut here. So you position another one. Let's just say this rib goes here. So as you see, you just go around the perimeter here and you cut all your ribs. And now, if you're doing a stab where it's equal distance between your leading and trailing edge, all these angles here are the same. If you're doing a tapered leading edge, then they're different. So once you get all your ribs cut, which will go really quick, and then you'll go through here with a little glue. So let's just pretend this is your leading edge, and you'll go around here and you'll put a little glue on it. And you'll position it, and that'll be it. Let me get a little kicker on it. Of course, they should be down in rubber bands. So the beauty of having this thing sticking out past the metal rod is that way you're not going to actually glue it to the metal rod because of the clearance. So the clearance does two things. It allows the magnet to cut, and it also moves the structure away from the rod, but you have to compensate for the overhang when you set it up. And there's something I didn't know. I put a little kicker on that rubber band. Yep, that's something I just learned. So these rubber bands disintegrate under the kicker. So that's something to keep in mind. That was something I didn't expect to happen because this is the first little mock-up I did this far along. So then, yeah, the magnets are reusable. Stick them back on a block or wherever you want to go with them. So that's how quick you could build the structure is you lay all your pieces on the metal rod, rubber band them down, and glue them. So it's all glued, you know, at one time. Once it's all built, take it off and you're finished. So since the kicker dissolves these rubber bands, probably my fix with that will be, well, when these things are on the fixture, I'll probably go around and weight it like that. So I've got enough of these little blocks. I've got a bunch of them. I went up to this metal warehouse place and I bought a bunch of their cutoffs. So as you lay this thing out like this, you know, it's all glued or all ready to be glued. I've got the rubber bands and the magnets on it. And then I'll go through here and I'll put these weights on here like that. So that way when I hit it with the kicker, you know, it won't pop the rubber band off and loosen the structure. So anyway, that's it. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like this. I mean, all I wanted to convey is just experiment and try different things. For a lot of people, this is overkill for, I mean, peanut scale. But it's just something to tinker with and try. I thought it'd be fun to experiment with these magnets and a fixture like this. Especially when you start getting into a tapered leading edge and a bigger part, you know. You just lay it all out, go around and cut it and glue it. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. This is some of the stuff I've been working on, and I don't know, hopefully you get some ideas. And I'll finish my wooden blocks. These at the beginning of the video, these were the blocks that are going to replace the ones I have out here. So these are positioned out. Another thing I'd like to do, and I know it's been done, there's all different variations. I think there's so many people that have done so many different things with building, but I'd like to experiment with some of these wings that are along the same concept, because if you look at this concept, the way it's floating off the bench on these rods, it sort of reminds you of an I-beam. I mean, so the concept goes back, you know, probably in the 40s or 50s, who knows, but I'm just trying to modernize it with these magnets and some of these fixtures and utilize some of these little widgets they got out now, these dovetail clamps. One of the things you do, it's in woodworking, is you can take a board like this and you can run grooves through it and then run some this way. And then let's say you've got a table leg or something and you want to cut a taper. Well, you can't cut a taper on a table saw because the blade runs parallel to the fence. But you can take a board like this and you could lay your piece of wood on the board at an angle and then run it through. So let's just say you wanted to cut this piece of plywood, but you wanted it all the way from a point to maybe a 1/4 inch. So what you do is you take one of these plates that you ran the fixture in, I mean the grooves in, and you could run this out at an angle like this. Of course it wouldn't be hanging out over here, but you can take a strip of wood and then clamp it to this block, and then when you ran this through your table saw, it would cut it in a taper. So that's another use for the dovetail clamps. There's so many things you can do with it. You know, you watch these YouTube videos and there's a million ways to do stuff. And these are the same taper as the clamp, but it's just a little block. So you could have these little blocks and then you could make up a little plate. something like this that would fit between the two. And then when you clamp them down, you can clamp the whole plate. So, got 3 people. We had 5, so thanks for coming down or checking it out.